What's going on, guys? Today I want to address the relationship between a ketogenic diet, or the potential relationship between a ketogenic diet and increased risk for heart disease. And my answer, everybody asks me this, am I going to be increasing my risk for heart disease if I try a high-fat ketogenic diet? And this might surprise you, but my answer isn't going to be yes or no. It's going to be it depends, as it is quite often here on this channel. It depends on how you're doing the diet. And yes, I believe that the ketogenic diet can be a great tool for burning fat. It can be a fantastic tool for increasing your fitness levels, for increasing your brain cognition, your brain function. It can be an amazing way of doing things. But there's a right and wrong way of doing things. And we have to understand that if we're sitting here and we're laughing at people and we're saying something like, this is what a lot of low carb people do, they'll point their finger and they'll be like, you still think that there's a relationship between dietary fat and heart disease? Haven't you been to PaleoFX? Haven't you read the Bulletproof blog? Are you an idiot? And that's what we do, and it's horrible. It's not going to win us any friends. People are just going to think you're a dick. They're not going to be converted to your way of thinking. They're just going to be like, dude, get out of my face. And if they are listening to you, then what's going to happen is they're going to get stirred down the wrong path. They're going to start to think that they can eat things like bacon and cheese with reckless abandon and not have any risk of negative health effects. And that's horrible. You're not only misinforming people, you're being a prick, and that's not going to help anyone out. But what do we have to consider here? Well, the first thing I can say is this: there have been a lot of studies over the past few years that have demonstrated that there is no relationship between dietary fat intake and heart disease. There's been a bunch of meta-analyses that have come out, but we have to think about what meta-analyses are. Meta-analyses are a bunch of small studies that have been pulled into larger studies, which, if you're a statistician and you understand this, it increases their statistical significance because it increases the number of cases involved in a study. And that's why meta-analyses are given so much weight in the scientific community. But on the other hand, they are epidemiological studies. And what that suggests is, they're given by survey data, right? So these are people who are getting surveys administered to them, and they're filling them out and they're giving them back, and the raw data is then put through a model, and the model spits out coefficients, and the coefficients are either statistically significant or not, and the scientists look at the ones that are statistically significant, figure out what the relationship is. I used to be a methodologist in political science, and so I've done a lot of statistical work. But because I've done that work, I also know that there's a lot of limitations in this type of research. Survey data is inherently flawed. It could be based on the type of question, the way the survey is administered. And when we're looking at something like this, unless we're actually looking at human subject trials, then there's a lot of issues involved. But that being said, there's a lot of data there that suggests that there is no relationship between fat intake and heart disease. There have been human subject studies done. One in particular by Dr. Jeff Volek and his team in 2014 looked at 16 overweight individuals. They measured their serum fat levels. That means the amount of fat that's in their bloodstream at baseline, and then they fed them fat. And guess what? The fat in their bloodstream didn't go up after they fed them fat. In fact, there was no relationship at all between it. There was a relationship when they started introducing carbohydrate, and as they introduced carbohydrate, the levels of fat in the bloodstream went up, which is a marker for increased risk of heart disease. So that's one study. Again, there's limitations there because there's not a lot of people there. That's 16 individuals. That's not a large pool to choose from. But the evidence there suggests that there is no relationship between dietary fat intake and heart disease. But beyond this, even given the fact that these studies say what they say, we have to understand that they are limited studies. So we have to look at what is going to cause heart disease and what we know is going to cause heart disease. What we know causes heart disease is inflammation. Not only does it cause heart disease, it causes increased risk of cancer, increased risk of neurological dysfunction, dementia, and Alzheimer's, and also increased risk of diabetes. So we really want to, regardless of the diet we're choosing to eat, we want to make sure that we are battling our levels of total body chronic inflammation. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we do is we make sure that the food we're eating is nutritionally dense. That means, given the amount of calories we're eating, when compared to those calories, there are a lot of micronutrients in the food. And so we need to be eating a lot of leafy green vegetables. We need to be making sure that we're eating organ meats like grass-fed liver. We need to be making sure that we're not loading ourselves up with things like bacon and cured meats and other types of foods that are not going to be high in calories but not very nutritionally dense. Why do we want to make sure that our foods are nutritionally dense? Because almost every food we eat, right? So glucose causes inflammation in postprandial blood tests. Fat causes inflammation in postprandial blood tests. Protein causes inflammation in postprandial blood tests. So anything we put in our bodies besides air and water is going to cause some degree of inflammation. So what we need is micronutrients to help us battle that inflammation, to fight free radicals, and to battle oxidative stress. And if we're not getting that into our diet, then we are going to be fucked, for lack of a better term. And we're setting ourselves toward a path of disease. And so we really want to avoid any kind of recommendations in this community to go and eat lots of meat and cured meats and junk with reckless abandon, whether it be keto junk or whether it be vegan junk or whether it be paleo junk or anything else. We want to make sure that we're eating micronutritionally dense foods. The other thing we want to make sure of is that the food we're eating is digestible. And the reason why we want to make sure it's digestible is because anything that we cannot digest in our gut is going to cause damage to the gut. So while I said eat lots of vegetables, we also have to be aware that a lot of vegetables are not very digestible. So we have to make sure that we're doing something to combat that vegetable wall that's going to cause damage to our gut linings. And so that means lightly steam your vegetables. That means if you're going to eat nuts, make sure that they're soaked. If you're going to include any food that has a hard lining or wall around it, you need to make sure that you're doing something to soften that up in order to allow it to pass through your gut without causing damage. Because again, anything that damages the gut is going to cause inflammation, and that inflammation is going to travel throughout the body. The gut contains the immune system, and if that wall lining is damaged, that can cause a whole lot of food intolerances, and that wall lining is at places just a single cell thick. So again, you want to make sure that you're battling this. You're making sure that your food is digestible. Finally, you want to be cognizant of the types of fats you're eating, and there's fats out there that are high in omega-3s, and there's fats out there that are high in omega-6s. And omega-3s battle inflammation, omega-6s raise inflammation. So if you are following a ketogenic diet and you're eating a lot of seed oils, if you're eating a lot of processed food that contains seed oils, which are in almost everything that's processed and prepackaged, if you're eating meat that has been being fed these types of omega-6 rich foods, then you're also eating omega-6. And you just want to be really cognizant of this because we have so much omega-6 in our diet. We need omega-6 to survive. It's an essential fatty acid. But the problem is there's so much of it in our food resources that we're overloaded with omega-6, and that causes higher and higher levels of inflammation. So that's why I recommend farm-raised, grass-fed, free-range, and wild-caught meats. That's why I don't recommend eating a lot of meat at all if you do eat meat. And again, for you vegans out there, you can do keto and be vegan at the same time. It just requires including coconut oil in your diet, making sure that you are getting fats from vegetable sources, but making sure also that you're keeping your levels of omega-3 and omega-6 in ratio with each other. And I also recommend supplementing with omega-3s, whether you're vegan or not. And if you're not vegan, of course, fish oil. But if you are vegan, the only real source that will absorb is from algae. So make sure that you're getting your omega-3 sources from algae. So make sure that you're not eating tons of omega-6. You're going to be eating some of it regardless. Make sure that you are including some sort of omega-3 in your diet, and making sure that it's absorbable omega-3. Make sure that we're battling inflammation at every level. Make sure that we're eating foods that are nutritionally dense, and make sure that we're eating foods that are digestible. Don't think that you can just say, hey, I'm ketogenic right now, go out there and eat lots of bacon, salami, and beef jerky without facing health consequences if you're not taking care of your micronutritional density and your gut health. And that's all I got. If you guys are interested in that Keto Camp grocery list, we're doing a free webinar this Thursday. You can sign up for it below. You'll also get a copy of that keto grocery list, and that contains nutritionally dense and digestible foods. You'll also get a copy of our keto adaptation guide, and we're doing this webinar on Thursday at 9 a.m. We also just released Keto Camp. It's a book and a course that'll take you through the entire process of adapting to ketosis and maintaining ketosis if you want to use it to burn fat, build muscle, and increase your mental and physical performance. And that's all I got for today, guys. Live life healthy, love life, but don't be fucking judgmental. If you're a prick, no one's ever going to listen to you. Maybe I'm a prick, but peace.